Yes, everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Stephen Howson, and this is 5 things that we learned watching United shit the bed against Villa. In at number 1, Donny Beek. The guy was Casper the Ghost yesterday. Now, he's had a couple of starts, and maybe he needs a few more starts, but there's got to be some sort of a reason to continue playing him. Just because he's not had a lot of starts, that doesn't mean you get to play for Manchester United. This isn't Make-A-Wish. This is a team that's trying to be one of the best teams in the world. And you have to come in and you have to perform. If you don't perform, you take a seat and we find someone who does perform. There is a huge drop-off from Bruno to Donny in and out of possession. There was zero spark, zero dynamism. The jury can't be out on him anymore. The jury needs to be coming in and telling us all 12 are completely unanimous in the decision that this guy isn't good enough to play for Manchester United. There was a weird cult happened with Donny because people thought he was being unfairly treated, and he actually got a lot of starts under Ollie. I think you need to cast your mind back and remember the guy couldn't last 60 minutes. And there's been multiple managers that have come in, including the guy that made him a star, and bench him. So something's not going on there. He, even went out on loan and couldn't really get much game time. There doesn't seem to be much distinctive about the way he plays. Totally different to the way he was playing in Holland. But there's no personality. There's no edge to him. There's nothing that he does where you go, nothing. He's simply just not at the level that is required. It was a weird signing. Well, it's either a weird signing or we need to go and find the receipt and see if we can get our money back because we didn't get what we paid for. Number 2, countered. One of the things that we've become excellent at became our downfall in some sort of like spooky Hollywood sort of movie kind of thing. Pace destroyed us on the transition. We weren't alert enough. We weren't sharp enough. Bailey and Watkins ran the defence ragged, and this is a defence that's gone like 11, 12 hours without conceding a goal. Insane. How has it managed to do that and then just be turned inside out the way it was? No Varane was felt. Lindelof's lack of pace potentially was one of the reasons he got exposed. Every time Villa went forward, they did look like they could score. It was too easy to cut through us, and we were caught sleeping in the first 20 minutes. And after that, you're playing against an Emery team. This is a guy that wakes up in the morning and basically looks at posters of Jose Mourinho to how to make it difficult for the opposition. He's excellent at it. They played at a different tempo, energy to us, and it showed. We literally kind of got bullied. And, there's probably multiple factors in there. I'm not panicking. I'm disappointed, but I'm not panicking. These things happen when you're transitioning and you've got a relatively small squad that's trying to compete on multiple fronts. We had probably a massive adrenaline dump from pushing as hard as we did to try and beat Sociedad midweek. The travel that's on top of that, the disappointment in not quite getting the result, and I think it showed against a fresh, up for it, high tempo, high energy Villa side. Number 3, strikerless. Now, Anthony Martial getting back on the pitch was probably a positive sign. It also probably means that he's going to start featuring more heavily in some games. And that's probably a positive for us. I have to say probably, because the guy has got to November with barely featuring in the team. And until he changes that, until he can turn up week in, week out, he cannot be trusted to lead the line for Manchester United. That being said, Ronaldo was a complete passenger. There is a desperate need for a new striker at United. Whether Anthony Martial becomes fit and starts week in, week out or not, we still need a backup at the worst case scenario. And actually, there's a lot better strikers out there than Anthony Martial, so just go get one of them. And if Martial can turn everything around and be better than him, sweet, we've got 2 good strikers. You don't lose. Goals win games. And everything seems to be like a grind for United at the moment. Obviously, Martial reliable. I don't think Marcus is a striker, even though he's clearly been working on his heading. I think he's far better off the left-hand side. It is a major, major cause for concern because goals are so important to a team. We've looked like, yesterday aside, before you start commenting, we look like we've fixed the majority of the issues with the defence. David De Gea looks like he's improved. The midfield looks competent and knows what it's doing. But the final third just isn't there. And it all starts with a striker. Sancho being out of form, Anthony being injured. These things don't help. But the striker, the same situation with Donny van der Beek. When the ball comes to you, and this is Ronaldo, I know. But it doesn't look like he's playing like Ronaldo. And that's the big one. Number 4, no Bruno, no party. There's a weird sort of cult that doesn't like Bruno for whatever reason. I don't understand it, but it's there. I don't know if it just became fashionable to try and diminish the guy's involvement because he was so heavily involved. United so reliant on him scoring goals for us. It sort of became the cool thing to do somehow to just pretend he was shit. Well, he's not shit. He's quality. And when we don't have him, we lose energy, we lose impetus, we certainly lose creativity. There's tempo goes out of the mix. And it isn't just the ability. I think he's a bit emotional. I think he's a bit of a moaner. But there is an edge that he brings. He certainly brings an edge when he plays. Did we go with the wrong decision in the starting lineup? Yeah, maybe. Ten Hag has to be allowed to make some errors. You can't expect him to be perfect every time. In hindsight, maybe Fred would have been better. Maybe McTominay would have been better. But that's hindsight, isn't it? Hindsight's always 20/20. Do we have a Bruno reliance? Yeah. Do Manchester City have a Haaland reliance? You rely on your good players. That's why you pay them. What a lot of nonsense. We're lucky enough that we've got players you can rely on. I don't see the issue in like, oh, well, you'd be shit if you didn't have him. Yeah, and if we didn't have him, we'd have somebody else. That's how it works. You don't just get to play with 10 players. And finally, a big factor, I think, but it was tired legs. The players have started to look a little bit leggy recently. The World Cup break, for those not going, will do them a world of good. The World Cup could be an absolute game changer in a real negative sense for those who go the distance. And United have got some players playing for some teams that you'd expect to go the distance. Like I said earlier, Villa played to a totally different speed to us. Does there need to be more rotation? Yeah, probably. Is there anyone else you can rotate in? Probably not. We did a brilliant job recruiting in the summer. But it's going to be a long process to get everything that we need in the right positions. Now, for those not going, the World Cup's going to come at a really good time. But because we don't know who's going to go far, you don't know what the involvement is, you don't know what injuries are going to come back, you can't say that the World Cup is coming at a good time for the entire club. You just have to say, we'll see what happens. January additions will need to be made. Now, I know the club have said that they're not actively working on it, but that doesn't mean that they've either not agreed something or that they don't plan to. And I hope they plan to, because the momentum that we've got, it'd be a shame to see this lost, and it'd be a shame to not back this manager. If you don't back this manager in January, but you do back him in the summer, okay. Maybe that's going to be a bit of a rough end to the season, but let's not sour the relationship, because some of the fans that we have will turn on this manager within 5 seconds. That's what they're like. So let's not sour the relationship. That's been a very, very positive start by not backing him. You backed him heavily in the summer, I know. But this is where we find out what this football club's all about. Did you do it just because the pressure was on? Or did you do it because you truly want to be one of the best football clubs in the world? Mr. Arnold, over to you. Hey, before you go, do us a favour. Check out Stretford Paddock FC highlights and you can see how my boys are getting on. The link is in the description below. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.